Good morning. Welcome to everyone to the Men Supporting Men support group brought to you by CANSA and, of course, the sponsor that makes it all happen, Hollard Daredevil Run. My name is Emmanuel. I'm going to anchor for today, and we are very, very excited to have you guys here on I can't figure out whether it's a cold morning or whether it's not here in Gauteng. But I know we've got a whole bunch of people from all over the country here today, and I am just so grateful that you guys. Now, I don't want to take too much time because we've got a very interesting guest speaker today, and I've got a whole biography on him in front of me, but he is so fascinating. So I'm not going to say too much. I'm actually going to allow him to do it. But during his talk, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. We don't want to disrupt too much, especially if there's problems with the internet like we had the last time. So what I would do, I'm going to ask Xylon the questions that you guys are posting. And then afterwards, we're going to open it up for conversations with everyone to find out where you are with your journey, what you're dealing with at the moment. If you've got some incredible advice of what you do to help you cope. Obviously, every single cancer patient's journey is different. So you do not want to give clinical advice because the advice that you give might not work or might not be the right one for every single cancer patient. So just if you've got little techniques and little things that you do, little mantras that you tell yourself every morning, then please share that with us. Now, back to our guest speaker. Xylon is a triathlete, but he's so much more. Xylon learned to swim only 5 years ago. Now, for someone like me that grew up swimming, I almost find it weird to think that people can't swim, but it happens. But Xylon learned to swim 5 years ago to be able to compete in the Ironman Corporate triathlon in PE, which is also where he's from. It says here that the 380-meter swim terrified him, so he enlisted a coach to help him with the technique. After the race, the triathlon bug bit him, and he completed his first Ironman a year later, which is incredible. Anybody that's actually done a triathlon will know it's not for the faint-hearted, Xylon. It's just one of those things that very few people compete, are good at, and normally finish. But I'm not going to say more. You were obviously very involved in the media, Supersport to name one, and I actually want to look here because it's quite impressive. 5FM, Algoa FM, amazing brands. You've now got a creative agency as well, and you work at the highest levels of professional cycling globally. You travel the world, but I mean, that's not all you are. In 2013, you got diagnosed with cancer. I'm going to hand it over to you so that you can introduce yourself further because you are fascinating, and then just share your journey with us, please.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for that. It's a very high-level introduction. Seems like you're speaking about someone else, not me. It sounds like a mouthful. But yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you for CANSA South Africa for having me, and for you guys tuning in today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll just share a bit of my journey. I think when we come from a place of vulnerability, when we open up about our struggles and what we've been through, we can only be stronger together. And I think it's important. So yeah, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be here this morning. I'm coming to you from a cold and wet, rainy PE morning. You know, we're in a drought. There's no water, but I can tell you it's raining today and our tanks are full. So we're very grateful for that. But yeah, I was born and bred in PE. I grew up with two passions. My one passion was radio and my other passion was cycling. The cycling thing, I grew up in the northern areas in an underprivileged community called Boyson Park, and my friends in the community didn't really get the cycling thing. You know, I was 13, 14 years old, riding a bicycle in Lycra. They were like, how can you do this for sport? You know, we play rugby, cricket, soccer. That's what we do here. So it was a strange left field passion of mine. And then my other burning desire was radio. All I wanted to do was be in radio. And when I was 15 years old, I started volunteering at a local community radio station. A friend of mine, who actually sadly passed away from cancer about a year ago, he was a presenter on the radio show at the station. And I went and sat in on one of his shows. And luckily the station manager was there. And I said to him, "Oh, I absolutely love radio. I've got my December school holidays coming up. Can I do anything here? Can I volunteer here?" And he said, "Yeah, sure. Like we need some help in the music department." And that whole school holidays, back in the day, radio used to play all the music off CDs, and they had thousands and thousands of CDs. So I spent my whole school holiday labeling and structuring every single CD in the CD room so that when the DJs arrived, they knew exactly how to find whichever CD they were looking for within seconds. And I did that for absolutely no money. I didn't get paid a thing, but I got a foot in the door, man. I got to spend time at a radio station. And 6 months later, the station gave me my first radio show. It was like an hour show on a Saturday afternoon. I sounded absolutely terrible, like any 16-year-old would, as you can imagine. But I absolutely loved it. It was a youth station. And then like I'm someone who loves achieving his potential. Like if I'm doing something, I don't have natural talent, but I have work ethic and consistency, and I never give up. So I want to become the best at whatever I do. So I would just like record my show and send it to, people at commercial stations that are more professional and build my network that way. I had a friend at Algoa FM, the local commercial station here, eventually replied to me, gave me some tips, allowed me to come sit in on his show. And I just grew and grew and grew that way. Eventually, to cut a long story short, made it to Joburg, to working at stations like Kaya FM, 5FM. I think I got to 5FM when I was 24 years old, and that had been my dream. Like I was one of those kids who would sit at those hi-fi things that you had, tape decks, and I would record music. And then later on, when I got older, my passion grew. I stopped recording the music and I recorded the DJs because I wanted to hear how they speak, when do they speak, what do they say. And 5FM was the main station throughout high school that I did that with. So 7-8 years later in my radio career to get there was like, what? I couldn't believe this. I was working with people like Gareth Cliff and DJ Fresh was on the Drive show. And I'd achieved my dream and I was like living my best life. And I was like, nothing could go wrong. I'm absolutely loving this, And then in my last year at 5FM, I was 26 years old. Every few months, like something would happen. Like I would be vomiting. I would get shingles. I would just have every single month there'd be something, and I wasn't connecting the dots. I would just think like if I'm vomiting, I have a stomach bug, or I have the flu or something, And then I got married at 26, and my wife and I decided in our first year of marriage, I left 5FM, took some time off, and we spent 7 weeks traveling throughout Southeast Asia. So we went to Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. And in one of those instances, we were lying on this beautiful island in Koh Phi Phi in Thailand, absolutely paradise, like you can imagine a painting is. You're lying there and you're like, this is unbelievable. And I just started vomiting blood, and I was just miserable. And I was like, okay, this is not a joke anymore. Like, I'm vomiting blood and something's up. Anyway, I went to the local doctor. He saw to it. And he was like, when you get back to South Africa, you need to go see a doctor. Because we were getting back to South Africa the next week. Anyway, I got back and like all of us, we're like, I'm fine now. I don't need to go see the doctors, especially us men, And I was like, no, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. And then all of a sudden, like a week or 2 weeks later, I broke out in this rash from head to toe. It was just random. I never had it before. It's like almost like when you get goosebumps, but your whole body from head to toe. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is so strange. And I thought, okay, this is a signal. Obviously, I need to stop dragging my feet. I got to go to the doctor. I went to the doctor and she wasn't really interested in the rash. She was interested in me vomiting blood like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. She's like, you probably have an ulcer in your stomach, so I'm just going to send you for a scan, a CAT scan, for us to confirm that. So she sent me off to the radiology department, and the junior radiologist was doing the scan. She took a little longer, and she did that pause where she stopped and wasn't talking anymore, wasn't so happy, left, came back with the senior radiologist, the owner of the practice. And I was like, okay, that can't be good. I don't like the look of this. And yeah, what transpired was it looked like I had some tumors. Like I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that's a cancer of the immune system where, you know, your lymph nodes, they create your immune system, your white blood cells, to fight off any illness, and the cancer was attacking those lymph nodes. So when your lymph node should be about the size of, I don't know, just smaller than a 2 Rand coin, it was mine with the size of golf balls. So they said to me, look, it looks like from the scan, it looks like you have cancer. We are going to do a biopsy. So I went into hospital for one night. They cut out one of the golf balls from under my arm, did a biopsy. And I mean, I remember the next morning, the surgeon was like, he came to me and he was like, man, you won't believe how big this was. I took some photos on my phone. You should look at this. And for him, he loves going into people's bodies, cutting things out, and then seeing something that's unnatural like that. And I'm like, that is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't want to hear about how big these things are in my body. But he was just like in his element. Anyway, we sent that lymph node off for a biopsy, and it came back positive for Hodgkin's lymphoma. So as you can imagine, I was 26 years old. I had been living my best life up until then. Like most young people who haven't really been through trauma or anything hard in your life, it's a shock to the system. And for me, they say to me, if you have cancer, this is the one easy to cure. So don't stress, you know, don't go and write your will. So I was like, okay, I'm a positive, optimistic person. That sounds amazing. Anyway, it turns out the journey wasn't so easy for me. I had 6 months of chemotherapy. That didn't work. I relapsed again. And then after that, they decided I'd have to have a harsher form of chemotherapy. And what that involved was 4 times in hospital. And each time in hospital was 2 to 3 days at a time. And then I'd come home, recover for 2 weeks, and then go in hospital again. And the 5th time, I'd have a stem cell transplant. So I would be in hospital for a month. They harvested my cells before, harvested my white blood cells before. And then during the stem cell transplant, I was in hospital for a month, and they completely killed my immune system. So you're literally in isolation. Hardly anyone can come visit you because you have no immune system. And then they put the harvested cells back in, so to restart your system. And that didn't work either. After that, I had a scan, still showed up that I had cancer cells under my arms. So then I needed radiation. And that for me was one of the hardest things. And it's part of the reason why, this is when I was living in Johannesburg. We lived there for 10 years, and it's how we've ended up back in Port Elizabeth. That radiation happened during December holidays. And as most of the South Africans know, December holidays, best time of the year, especially if you live in Gauteng. All you want to do is get out and go to not be in Gauteng. Gauteng is like a ghost town during December. But we had to stay there. Like we had to stay and have radiation. And particularly during I went to see a psychologist, and because as I said, I'm a positive, optimistic person. So throughout treatment, I was just positive, and I hadn't really come to terms with what I was experiencing. And during the isolation period, I was in hospital for 23 days. And I would look out the window every single day, and all I wanted to do was touch the air, was feel fresh air again, you know. And I didn't struggle with physically going through the stem cell transplant. I felt nothing. I felt like myself, but mentally, I couldn't bear being locked up in a room. And 2 years after my cancer treatment, after I was in the clear, I just got severely depressed. Like I just shut down, and I didn't know what was going on. And I went to see a psychologist. And one of the things she said was, I hadn't dealt with the cancer mentally. I was sort of in denial. I was calling it positivity and whatever, and I was in denial. And it's fine. You have to deal with whatever you have to, whatever tools you have in that situation. That's what you have to do, you know. But then later on, I had to deal with it. And she explained to me that the stem cell transplant, why that was mentally so hard to me, is because freedom means the world to me. Like freedom is number one on top of my list of everything. It's why I work for myself. It's why I can't work for a boss. I can't work for a 9 to 5. I have to own my own time. And cancer took that away from me. My ability to plan, my ability to dream, because you just don't know when you're going through treatment where you're going to be in 6 months' time, what you can do. You know, you psych yourself up for your chemo session, you get there and your body hasn't recovered enough for the next round of treatment. So they send you home. So that uncertainty like absolutely killed me mentally. And I made a promise to myself then, particularly during the stem cell transplant. I said to myself, when I get out of here from day one, when I walk out of this hospital and I touch fresh air again and I'm outside, I'm making a promise to myself to never take a single day for granted. Like, and I can truly say I've been living like every single day consciously since then. I've got a life now that I couldn't have dreamt of. And obviously, like everyone, you've got hardships, you've got challenges. But for the most part, like we moved back to Port Elizabeth because, yeah, I just wanted to be closer to the beach. I wanted to be closer to family. As you said, I'm a cyclist, I'm a triathlete, and the lifestyle here, riding along the coast any given day, you can swim with dolphins, you can see whales while you're cycling, and people will spend hundreds of thousands of rands to have those experiences. We have that on our doorstep and also globally. So I managed to turn, after a career in radio, television, working at 5FM, working at Supersport, I managed to turn my second career, cycling, my second passion, cycling, into a career. So I've just come back from the Tour de France now last week. So I run a marketing agency and I work globally in cycling. So I work for a professional cycling team in Europe. I work for an agency in Germany where we manage about 25 athletes. One of our athletes won a stage in the Tour de France about 10 days ago. I work for a big company, amazing new tech company that helps endurance athletes with real-time glucose, doing Ironman and stuff like that. You're not guessing when to eat, and you could tell you when you're getting sick before you're getting sick. So just I've managed to carve out this life where I get to work on this global platform. I'm very privileged. You get to go overseas every 6 weeks or so. My clients fly me out there, get to work with the most inspiring, incredible people. But it didn't happen by chance. You know, it's a promise I made to myself that I'm not going to take anything for granted. And I actually actively went and carved out that life. My wife and I wrote down, you know, what do we want our life to look like literally down to the details. You know, we want 2 dogs. You know, we have 2 dogs now, the dogs we wanted. You know, we want to have the freedom to travel. We want to own our own time. So then in our business, those are the clients we pursued. We live next to a game reserve in PE. So I'm looking into a game reserve right now, sharing with some of you guys offline earlier. We have lions and calling in the morning and evening, waking us. One of the local rhinos just had a new baby a month ago. And the last 2 days, she's been spending time with the baby, sleeping outside our bedroom here. And it's a life I couldn't have dreamt of. So cancer is something I would not wish upon anyone, but I decided to take the positives out of it. And yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' experience, because for me, I have my checkups once a year in May, June. And around that time, man, I become a cancer patient again and the cancer is back. Like mentally, I start feeling stuff. Oh, literally, I would have completed my second Ironman. Like earlier this year, I did my second Ironman. So for you guys who might not know, an Ironman is a 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer bike ride, and then you run a marathon afterwards, 42 kilometers. So it's a big thing. Your body needs to be healthy and fit to be able to do that. And I crushed my last Ironman, did an incredible PB, was really, really happy. But literally 8 weeks later, 10 weeks later, it comes time for my checkup. Oh, I start feeling stuff again. Oh, feels like the tumor is back. Like, what's there, you know? and I've been in the clear for 8 years now, but that just, it seems like it never goes away. And I was talking to a friend of mine in Holland the other day, and she's a breast cancer survivor for over 20 years. And she says still, it happens to her every year. It like never goes away. So yeah, it's incredible to have a community like this, to have people to talk to and share and find out everyone else's experiences as well. Because like I said earlier, community is better together, and we can help each other. So yeah, that's a bit of my story in a nutshell.
Xylon, I must say you are truly inspirational, and I almost find I don't know the word, but a link with you, because we also work with big brands like Look Cycles in France and Powerbar. They are some of our biggest clients, and also in the cycling world, the Manga, which is now more mountain biking. So I completely understand where you are and why you enjoy exactly what you do. I want to ask anybody, if you've got questions for Xylon, please post them to the chat box, and I'll ask Xylon. We are going to open up for everyone to share their journeys a little bit later. I just don't want to disrupt the flow while we're talking to Xylon. But Xylon, one of the questions I really want to ask you, at 26, I mean, you got married. You're supposed to be in the prime of your life, and then you get this diagnosis of not just a normal or a very tiny cancer, one of the most aggressive cancers in the world. How did that feel? If you briefly mentioned that it almost felt as though your world was coming to an end, but being a gentleman that just got married, traveling the world, basically on your honeymoon, and then you get this diagnosis. Number one, how did you feel? Number two, how did you cope? And what the third part of this question is, if you can pinpoint one specific thing that helped you through it, what would that be?
So for me, it was absolutely strange. I hadn't had a history of cancer in my family or anything like that. And I was a cyclist, like I mentioned. I've been a cyclist since I was 13 years old. So I thought I was healthy. I thought I was a fit person. I thought I knew what health was. Subsequently, I've really supersized my understanding and knowledge of health and nutrition and all of that. But I thought I was a healthy and fit person. So it came as a massive shock. Also, as I mentioned, like I'm vomiting 1 month, next month I have shingles, next month I have bronchitis. So to me, those were isolated incidents of just getting sick and then treating it, and then you get better. I wasn't connecting the dots. So when all that led to, your immune system's weak because your immune system's been compromised by Hodgkin's lymphoma. I remember sitting in the surgeon's office after doing that biopsy. It was in Olivedale at the Netcare there, I think, sitting in his office, my wife and I. Brown walls, like I remember it all. It's like the world stopped, and it was like almost in slow motion sitting. So and he was just so casual saying it. So you have cancer, but don't stress. This is one of the easiest cancers to cure. So it was just like, no, you got the wrong person. This isn't happening to me. Like cancer happens to other people, not me. Like check your notes again, please. So that was it was really, really strange. But then immediately, as I say, I went into positive, optimist, denial. Okay, I have this, but for sure I'll overcome it very quickly. This is just a bump in the road. It's a bit of an inconvenience, we'll get out of the way and then we'll carry on with life, with life again, which isn't the case. The one thing that was interesting for me was I didn't realize like how hard it was for my wife and the people around me. So you asked like, how do I cope? How did I cope with it? It was an amazing support system, family and friends who just immediately brought meals for us, we'd never have to worry about cooking or anything. So meals were there, ready made. And it was only a couple of years later when I started hearing my wife's experience that I realized like how hard it was for her. Because as a patient, you know what you're going through because you can feel everything. The people around you, they're out of control. They can't feel what you're feeling, so they don't know if you're going to die or you're not going to die. They don't know like how healthy you are. You're driving to the hospital and asking her to pull over so you can vomit on the side of the road. So that is quite like jarring, you know, and you can feel that you're just feeling nauseous and you need to vomit, and that's okay. But they can't feel that. So they might be thinking, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, this could be a 10 out of 10 worst case scenario. The other thing actually is talking about vomiting. I know it's disgusting. I hope you guys are breakfast already. The one thing I struggled with, I just remember a story now, was the smell of the chemo room. So the moment I walked in there, I had to vomit. I got nauseous. And it was just a mental thing, like how strong the brain is. There's even one instance in the middle of chemo sessions. I think I had a 2-week break, but we got invited to the Giro d'Italia in Italy, which is the second biggest race in the world after the Tour de France. It's their version of the Tour de France, the Tour of Italy. And this was just an incredible opportunity. It was the CEO that invited me. We got to fly in the helicopter over the peloton in the mountains. Then we got to get in a lead vehicle. I mean, this is an experience people will just kill for. And I said to my doctor, look, this opportunity has come up. And he said to me, he was a cyclist too, luckily, so he understood. And he said, look, your immune system isn't good, but it's good enough to go. You just need to be careful. But what I want you to do is the moment you land back in Joburg, I want you to come straight to me, come straight to the hospital from the airport. Because he knew my immune system would probably be compromised and he wanted to check me out. And he was right, I did get sick. But anyway, I was just going to see him for a checkup. I wasn't going for treatment, but I was sitting there waiting for him. And the nurse who administered my chemo usually walked in just to say hello to me. I couldn't say hello. I had to run immediately to the bathroom and vomit. Like just that connotation, that smell, like it's amazing how powerful the brain is, which is why I've been doing a lot of psychology work since then, you know, to help deal with that. Anyway, I don't know if I've answered all your questions.
Pretty much. You did pretty much. I see there's no other questions yet, so I'm going to carry on with questions until we get one. Oh, Bobby.
Can I just say a quick word?
Of course you may, Bobby.
Xylon, you have hit the nail so hard on the head there. Truly, your experiences are absolutely, you know, spot on. And the fact that we underestimate our partners, we underestimate our wives, and we don't realize exactly what they go through. And I think you've hit it on the head there. When I started my treatment, a guy that was just finishing his said to me, "You're about to enter mind games." And man, he was correct. This cancer thing seriously is mind games. Thank you for what you're telling us. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to actually introduce Bobby before he started speaking. Bobby is part of the steering committee. He does a lot of work with cancer, and especially cancer TLC, which is tough living with cancer, the children. And Bobby himself is also a breast cancer survivor. So we've worked together a lot. So I wanted to actually introduce him. But Bobby, thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. Xylon?
No, I appreciate that. And I mean, the one thing, part of being in denial is I never integrated into a cancer community quickly or immediately per se, because as I said, this was just a little inconvenience, needed to get out the way and then get on with my dreams and my life, you know. And over the years, through the support from cancer, you know, having talks and attending events, it's amazing to hear other people's experiences. So yeah, what I was talking about, that's resonating with you. It's I always love hearing other people's experiences, because yeah, it's not good to experience stuff in isolation. And a lot of the things I've come to understand, I probably would have understood quicker if I did integrate into a community. So it's amazing to chat to you guys. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Bobby. I absolutely love hearing other people's experiences and trying to learn from it, because that is one of the biggest things I didn't know was how hard it was for my wife. Like, I mean, 6 months into your marriage, your husband has cancer. Like, is he gonna die? We just got married, you know. Yeah.
That is one of the things that actually stuck by me now while you were talking, and hearing Bobby's journey now a couple of times, where he was a host for certain events for cancer webinars and stuff. Is that we think of our partners. Now, I've got a entire family, both my sisters and my mom, all cancer survivors. my elder sister, a cancer survivor from, she was 16 and she had ovarian cancer. And the doctor said to her, "You'll never have children," because they had to remove one of the ovaries, the other one was so damaged. And literally 3-4 years later, she got married very young. She had her first child, literally with no ovaries. No one knows how this happened. And then 4-5 years later, she had her second child. And literally 20 years after that, she had a lot Lamiki. Kyle, it's his birthday this week. And, you know, this should not be possible, but it is possible. And the question I want to ask you, and that's going to be my last question, and then we can open it up to the floor, is when you got the cancer diagnosis, when you went through the chemo and then the radiation, as a sports person, how did it affect your training? How did it affect your sport, which is such a big part of who you are?
So that's an interesting question, because in our friends group, I was the strongest cyclist always, because I'd been riding my bike for 12, 13 years. And I used to go riding, mountain biking with them. And in my friends group, I would only go ride with them when it was my easy days, you know, or I would ride before. They would drive to Northern Farms, let's say we'd ride there, and I would ride my bike from home there and then ride with them and maybe even ride home, because I was the strongest cyclist. After treatment, man, I remember we stayed close to a boomed off area, and there was a boom gate 1 kilometer away. I couldn't even run to the boom gate. Like after 200 meters the first time, I said to Wendy, my wife, look, I can't do it. We have to turn around. Like, got to go back home. So that was shocking to me. We went back to Northern Farms, went to go ride with friends. When I started getting active again, I was the slowest person. As I say, I used to ride there and then entertain them, ride with them, and then I would ride home while they would drive home. Yeah, I could not keep up. Like, I had a friend, one of the friends 20 years older than me. I used to be way stronger than him, just couldn't keep up. It took my body like a very long time to recover. I would say 2-3 years to recover and come back to a natural state. But now I've got, like, I'll never stop doing sports now. I've made a promise to myself. Like, at the moment I'm doing triathlon, so I have all these triathlon goals. So I do most days 2 sessions a day. After this, now it's raining, but I have a 3-hour bike ride on my program. So I'm going to get on my indoor trainer. I'm going to do that. And I have a 30-minute run off the bike after that. I'll never stop doing that stuff, because I've had like an intention of trying to be the healthiest person I can be. Like, even this last year, my doctor said to me, we don't need to do 1-year scans anymore. Like, your blood is healthier than you've ever been in your life. Like, and she like said, how is this possible? Why is it like this? And I said to her, it's because of the sport that I do and because of how I eat. And I mean, I'm not crazy strict in terms of how I eat. I sort of follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time I eat very healthy food, vegetables, make sure I'm getting fish, chicken, the healthiest food. And then 20% of the time I will have my pizza and ice cream and whatever. But I vividly remember how weak my body was, and what I have now, I don't take for granted for a single day.
Thank you for that. While I'm going to open it up for Fana, I'm actually gonna I know you wrote your story there, but I'm going to ask you to actually share your story right after this. Just one final thing while I do that, Xylon. Advice, especially for people that just got the diagnosis. What advice would you give them? Number one, to cope with the diagnosis mentally, of course, and then number two, when it comes to their families, a lot of people don't want to tell their families because they don't want to stress them out, which is, according to me, a bad thing to do, because you need that support, like you mentioned yourself as well, and Bobby also mentioned it. So what advice would you give people?
I mean, like, I'm not a fan of giving advice because this thing is so personal. So I would say, the first thing is to feel what you're feeling. Like, most of us, we have, when we need answers or whatever, we have it inside of us. We just maybe struggle to find it. So I would say feel what you're feeling in that moment. Like, are you feeling sadness? Are you feeling, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah. We hear you. I see Fana says his device is struggling with speaker. I will, Fana, ask you to unmute shortly. So after Xylon has answered, I'll unmute you so that you can share your journey as well.
Yeah, so my advice would be to firstly feel what you're feeling. My not mistake, I would call it maybe growth moment, was being in denial and not feeling what I was feeling, and that led me to the road of depression because I wasn't acknowledging what I was going through, that I was going through a real trauma here, and that this is very disruptive and changes your life forever. So that's the first thing I would be, is to work out and try to listen to your body, listen to your mind, and feel what the emotions, because your body knows what emotions it wants to feel in certain situations, and try to unlock that. And then for people around you, sometimes people mean well and they ask you, how can they help? But that puts the burden on you. You have to now go think how they can help. And that can be exhausting too. So it's putting boundaries in place. If you don't want visitors, say, thank you, you mean well, but I just don't need visitors right now. I need my quiet time. I need relaxing time, or whatever. Or people, sometimes they want to help, but the help is overboard and help isn't maybe needed, and as I say, puts a burden on you. So it's just being very clear with your boundaries and being like, I appreciate you, but I can't, like, maybe go and Google and see what cancer patients need when they need help, go and find it out and then bring it, but don't put the burden on the cancer patient.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I'm going to open the floor. Fana, you said here that you've been going through treatment for the past 18 months and the first time on the support group, and that this is mind-blowing stuff that you can relate a lot, and that you're still struggling to adjust psychologically. If you, I'm going to ask you to unmute, if you can please share with us what you're going through at the moment, and maybe Xylon and Bobby can also just help you on the psychological side with stuff that because they've gone through this, what you're going through. So I've allowed you to unmute, if you can unmute on your side.
While Fana's unmuting there, Xylon, may I ask a stupid question? Would you then say there's a lot of truth in that saying, you are what you eat?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science. Like, my intention is always balance. I think everything in life is about balance, which is why I take the 80-20 rule. So you can go 100% healthy and not have any processed foods or saturated sugars and oils and whatever that's bad for your body. But for me, that's not good for my mind then. So 80% of the time, I try to be very strict. I make sure that I'm getting in the nutrients that your body needs, because it's not rocket science. It's so simple what your body needs. Your body needs vegetables, your body needs fish, your body needs chicken. Your body needs avocado because that's a healthy fat. Your body needs carbohydrates, it needs protein, it needs fat, but it prefers it in the healthiest forms that it can break down and use it up and not store it as fat, because obviously the more, and I'm completely open, I struggle with this at the moment. I'm carrying 4 or 5 kgs of fat heavier than I would like. If you see me on the road, I don't look overweight, I don't look out of shape, but as the Ironman athlete I'd like to be and achieve my potential, I'm 4 or 5. I'm probably a little irresponsible is probably the word I use, because I have a little bit of a belly. And as a cancer survivor, I wouldn't like a belly because it plays in my mind that I have just a little bit of excess fat. I think for men, your BMI should be between 10 and 20. Mine is probably 21 at the moment, so not far off the healthy range. But that is all food. I do all this training. I train 10 to 15 hours a week, but unfortunately, it's 90% in the kitchen and 10% exercise only.
That is so true. Oh, right. I've made it so that people can unmute themselves. Is there anyone? I know that Fana said that his device is struggling with the speaker, so that's probably why. Also, you are struggling still psychological, so you might not want to share. But if there's anybody that wants to share, please unmute yourself and share with us what you're going through at the moment. That's what the support group is there for, is to support each other through whatever journey you are going through.
No, I would particularly like to hear some of your guys' experiences. I'm rambling away here and it's like a one-way. I don't like one-way conversations because then I learn nothing. I'd like to learn too.
That's how I feel as the anchor sometimes, because I MC a lot and I do a lot of corporate gigs, and you think that a person would like to talk the whole time, but we like to actually hear back. So while we're waiting for someone to share, CANSA Support actually shared a whole bunch of links, and that's what's so incredible about the Cancer Association of South Africa. On their website, you can get a lot of information. You can get fact sheets on Hodgkin's lymphoma. They put the link there. And then, of course, there's various online support structures. There's a helpline that you can phone and make an appointment and talk to people that really can assist you, even if you just want someone to listen. It's crucial that you do that. And then another thing, and this one of the things that I really like, we're talking about nutrition now as well. The Cancer's got a program called the Cancer Seal of Recognition, where they've got certain products that have scientifically been proven to reduce or lower your risk of getting cancer. Now, nothing is foolproof, of course, but if you follow and eat those things that carries the seal of recognition, it could lower your risk of cancer. So please go to their website, cancer.org.za, and go scroll through there. There's a lot of resources that will help you.
I don't mean to cut you off there, but that's really interesting. I have an opinion, and I literally think my cancer was brought on or activated through poor nutrition. So I was cycling. That's what I knew to do for health reasons. But when it came to eating, I had zero clue. So I would sometimes have chocolate cereal for supper because I love cereal. I would have a sandwich with ham and cheese for lunch, with a juice with it, and in the morning I'd maybe have oats. So if you take that diet in a day, let's say oats for breakfast, and it's processed oats, so even there's an argument whether that's good for you or not. And then I have white bread with ham and cheese for lunch with the juice, and then for supper I have if I'm really bad, I have cereal, which is packed with sugar, obviously, refined sugar, which isn't good for the body. So a day like that, I've had very little natural nutrients, which is good for the body. All that food will get stored as a fat that the body doesn't need. And I did that for a number of years. And in my opinion, that's what activated the cancer for me. But obviously you never know. It's just an opinion. But when I look back at my lifestyle, that was 100% why I got sick, I think.
I wonder sometimes, Xylon, why, I wonder a lot as a life coach, when I work with various corporates and various people, why certain things happen to certain people. And I don't think a person really ever gets the right answer. But like you said earlier, and that was quite interesting, your body knows. A lot of times you kind of push it to the side because you don't want to acknowledge something. You might feel a little bit under the weather, and you will convince yourself, especially if you are a eternal optimist like myself, you will push it aside and like, no, man, tomorrow I'll feel better. Tomorrow I'll feel better. Where you actually, when your body tells you something's wrong, you need to actually get to a doctor and just figure out what's wrong. So it's quite interesting that you say your nutrition and your diet, you feel that brought it on, because your body would know. But every person's journey is, I think, so remarkably different. Where some people, believe that you could inherit it because your family has it, and other people. I had a very interesting conversation this last weekend with someone that doesn't believe that at all. They believe that genetics cannot be passed on. So it's quite interesting to hear different opinions on it. Bobby, you are muted at the moment. I love discussing these things with you as well. So I'm going to actually put you on the spot. And what's your feeling on that?
Look, I personally do believe that there is a genetic line. You do get 10%. That's my own feeling of all cancers. I see it in the line of work that I'm in. And so I do believe that, but yes, 90% is our environment. It's what we feed ourselves. I see that. And, I just want to quickly pick up on something that was mentioned, where people say they'd rather not tell the family their diagnosis. I can see it so often where the family knows something's wrong. They can pick it up in our body language, whatever. And no matter how much we try and keep it from them, they do realize there's something going on. And bursting the bubble sometimes just clears the air and throws the family out into something that they've now got to do, rally around, and they need it more than anything else. Just a thought. But I'd like to ask you, what would your advice be, Xylon, to a youngster, 15, 16-year-old, that is diagnosed with something like that?
Sure, yeah. I can't imagine being diagnosed at that age, because you're already going through so many changes, natural changes anyway, and you struggle with the stigma of your identity and, trying to fit in at that age, and you're going through so many things. So on top of that, to have a trauma like this, I don't know. I don't know what advice I'd give them, but I think it comes back to acknowledgement. We don't know why it's happening. I think the first thing we ask is, why me? Why is it happening to me? And the honest answer is, we don't know. Just try to support them as much as possible to say, look, this is happening. We don't know why it's happening. Try to support you as much as possible. But for me, I try to take the positives out of the situation. During going through it, there are no positives, but in hindsight, years later, try to take positives from that situation. But I actually don't have good advice for a 15, 16 year old. I can't imagine how hard it would be. We just try to empathize with them.
Xylon, one thing I want to say is that I call them dream makers. It's people like you that came from a disadvantaged background. I mean, you lived in you mentioned earlier that you had a great childhood and stuff, but you did come from a disadvantaged community. And then to see someone like you work hard and make it, and also go through this cancer journey and make it, and then being a public entity, which you are, you might not agree with me, but which you are, and then sharing your journey. I think that is so vitally important for number one, the youth to see, because they can see that they can make it. There is hope, and where there's hope, that's half the battle won. I feel, if you can remain positive, but then number two, for them to see that there is a future for them if they don't give up, and I want to applaud you for that, because I call them the dream makers, and you are a dream maker. So thank you for that.
No, that's interesting. Thank you. And I actually work for a professional cycling team called Team Novo Nordisk, and all the athletes on the team have got type 1 diabetes.
Wow.
And we race at the highest level to inspire more than 500 million people living with diabetes around the world, to show them that you can do more than you might think is possible, with the correct management, with the correct management to the condition. And literally, most of the messages we get, a lot of the messages we get are literally kids being in hospital, getting diagnosed, and they Google diabetes and sport, and we're the first thing that comes up. and immediately they see heroes that they can live up to. I mean, our guys race 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers. We're racing tomorrow in Croatia, over 200 kilometers, and they have type 1 diabetes where your body doesn't produce insulin. You have to artificially take insulin, so you can't regulate so you have to regulate your glucose levels, and it's I wouldn't say a nightmare for them, but it's hard work. It's a challenge. And I think it's right what you say, like what our athletes mean to the diabetes community, the daily messages we get. It is good to have people to look up to and to allow you to dream.
And what's interesting is that especially the youth, they so tired of listening to their parents, and their teachers, because you as a parent and teachers kind of always want the best for you as a kid. Where I think children get immune to listening to their parents, and if they see someone up there that they really appreciate and want to become like, then they listen. And when you give advice, people listen, and that's so important. And thank you for that. Okay, so sorry, Bobby, you wanted to say something?
I know I'm being a pain in the proverbial.
Not at all. Not at all.
When next year in Polokwane area, give us a shout. I'd love to take you to the kids so they can see. They really need something like this. Exactly what you're talking about, because the parents, but to see living proof is great. It's awesome. It spreek boekdele uit that can't be said.
That's probably good advice for 15, 16-year-old yours, to connect them with others, for them to see they're not alone and see others are going through that journey too, and it removes a bit of that stigma. But let me know where in Polokwane you are. I'm a big Kruger National Park fan, and I always look for an excuse to go up north. There, we usually go the Limpopo route, but let me know where you are. Sometimes we do go the Polokwane route, depending on which part of the park we're going to.
Awesome. Okay, so we've pretty much come to the end of the meeting for today. We have these every single month, so please keep an eye on social media and on most of you, when you registered, you accepted to get the newsletter from CANSA, so you will be notified if there's another, or when the next meeting is. And it's so important to grow this support group, because we as men don't normally talk about these things, and that's what we're trying to break. We're trying to break that stigma that men shouldn't talk, or that they don't talk about their feelings and what they're going through. We are here to support you, and I want to say thank you, number one, to the steering committee, Gretchen at CANSA, for putting it together, and the hard work behind the scenes. But then a special thank you to Xylon for being here today and for sharing your journey, for inspiring. There's so many comments on here, like Shahid that said, thank you for sharing your experience. I learned a lot, so inspiring. You have made a huge difference in my life. So you literally, a half an hour, 45 minutes, changed someone's life and outlook on life. So please keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for taking the time to be here. We know you're very busy.
No, can't be too busy with something like this. Thanks for having me, and glad I could add value. We all have imposter syndrome, and I'm always one, not me. I'm not good enough, but those words mean a lot. So thank you to you guys.
And then a special thank you to Hollard Daredevil Run for making this possible. And then, of course, the Cancer Association of South Africa. They've been around for 90, I think they're going for 91 years this year. That's a long time for a charity to be around, and they do a lot. So without you, this isn't possible. Please, once we share the link, share it with your communities, share it with your network, and let's get more people to come on these groups. I know a lot of people, we had not a lot, we had about 15 people that registered, but only 8 of them are here. And we understand that people are busy, things happen. So it's important to share with our networks and our communities to get this support group to actually grow even more, because I think it's so important. So I'm going to play out with a video that I absolutely love, and it's very relevant to what we were talking about now towards the end about dream makers and people in the public eye to share their journeys. And it's one of the global heroes of hope. You probably have seen this video before, but he was also a cancer. Well, he is a cancer survivor, and yeah, I'm going to play out with that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone. Thank you, Xylon. Thank you, Bobby, for sharing steering committee. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next month. Please contact the Cancer Association of South Africa if you need support, if you need help. We've got a WhatsApp line as well. So while the video is playing, if you're not on the WhatsApp group, please share your number on the chat box, and I'll make sure that Cancer adds you to the WhatsApp group, and that's for men supporting men. All right, have a great Saturday, and I'll see you guys next time.
Since I was a young boy, I wanted to play rugby professionally. Sport is actually all I knew. I realized that my fitness levels were going down. I lost quite a lot of weight, got fatigued very easily. I actually thought to myself, listen, you're training very hard and it's in summertime, so the night sweats are because it's hot. The loss of weight is because you're training very hard. The tiredness was just, I thought to myself, listen, you're getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go and train, so it's probably that. The first diagnosis from a doctor was that I had asthma, but I told the doctor that I had asthma as a child, so I know it's not asthma. You try and live a healthy lifestyle, and then you get diagnosed and you think to yourself, listen, yeah, but I'm young, I'm healthy, I do everything right. I try and think about that day quite a lot. I just had a sense of calmness. I don't know, I can't explain it. As soon as he told me, listen, yeah, but you have cancer, I just felt this sense of ease that, listen, everything is going to be okay. My wife's reaction was quite emotional and shocked in the beginning. We were married for 13 months when I was diagnosed. I really relied on her through this whole process, and she was very strong. I thought to myself, and I said, listen, yeah, this is just another injury. Whatever they say, this is the diagnosis, this is what the treatment plan will be, you are going to do it in half the time. I received my first chemo session on the Monday. The Thursday I was out of hospital. When I got home, my grass was long, so I mowed the lawn. The next morning I was in the gym, so I just told myself, listen, yeah, you are going to carry on as per usual. So I've been involved in 2 Relay for Lives now, and every year we're just getting stronger and stronger, and we just see the whole community coming together on an evening to just honor those that have lost the fight against cancer, or to help those that are still fighting the battle. I must say my favorite part about the relay event is just to take a moment in the evening just to go and sit somewhere. And when you just go there and you sit there and you take everything in, you realize how all of the work has been done and how everything just fell into place and just came up to be a perfect evening. My story is always the same. It's a story of motivation and hope. If you use motivation and if you have hope and you have faith, then anything is possible. I always say to people that your mind can be either your best friend or your worst enemy, because whatever you believe, that is what will happen. I actually try and just stay positive and keep a positive mind at all times, no matter what the situation is. I believe that is actually the key to success.